the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
According to John Gottman, what should you look for when you're dating? He lists 3. Number 1, does the person ask you questions about yourself and then listen for the answers? All right? So that's big. So is the person actually interested in you? Or do they want to just talk about themselves, right? But they want to know about you, and they ask follow-up questions, and they take an active interest in you. So you could tell by, if they're interested, by follow-up questions, by eye contact, and by smiles. So if they're looking at you and they're smiling and their eyes are wide open, they kind of sparkle a little bit, and they're asking you more about you, and they're showing some fascination, they smile at your answers, that's a really positive sign. All right? So do they ask questions about you, and do they listen for the answers? Number 2, do they treat people of lesser status well? Okay? So how do they treat the waitress or the waiter at the restaurant, or the person at the fast food drive-thru, right? If you're slipping through to get a quick burger or soda, right? How do they treat the homeless guy on the side of the road at the intersection, right? Or the clerk in the store? And are they kind and courteous to people who they don't benefit from at all, right? Who can't benefit them? How do they treat people of lower status? And then 3, are they reliable? Do they do what they say they're going to do, right? So if they say they'll be there at 6 o'clock, do they get there at 6 o'clock? And if they're not going to be there at 6, if they're stuck in traffic or something happened, do they call and let you know that, right? So reliability is an important thing. So according to Gottman, if you find somebody that checks those 3 boxes, they take an active interest in you, they treat people well who are of lesser status, and they're reliable, that's a winner. And that's a person who you should take a really serious look at. And I agree with that. I would add a 4th one, and I would say, are they a person of virtue who are seriously trying to become a person of greater virtue, right? So are they a good person to begin with, but a person who realizes, you know what, I'm still a work in progress. I'm not canonized yet, and I still need to get better. So are they good and improving, right? Are they focused on improving? Because marriage is going to give them a lot of opportunities to learn and to grow. And I think one of the things that makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck would be when, and I've had it happen more than once, where one person in the relationship says, you know what, this is just who I am. You knew what you were getting when you married me, and I'm not changing. This is who I am. That's like, okay, forget it, man. This thing isn't going to work. You don't want somebody who says, I am what I am, and I'm not trying to get better, and I got my vices or whatever it is, and I'm keeping them. That's not what you want, right? So person of virtue who is seriously trying to become a better person. And then, of course, it goes without saying, someone with whom you are aligned in the faith. It's just hard to overstate the importance of that to a life of a happy marriage. All right? So there you go. There's 4.5 things to look for when you start dating somebody. Okay, hope that's helpful. All right, now, one of the big problems is I meet somebody or I see somebody and I don't know what to say. I don't know how to go up to them. I don't know how to meet them. I get tongue-tied. I get nervous. I'm afraid I'm going to get rejected. Well, let me just say this. Getting rejected hurts, but it won't kill you. So go and do it, right? You get rejected, you're going to wake up the next morning. You're going to go to bed at night feeling bad. Oh, woe is me. You're going to fall asleep. You're going to wake up the next morning, and something is going to strike you as kind of significant. You're still alive. Life didn't end because some person decided you weren't worthy of a date. Because you know what? That person blew it. That person missed an opportunity to meet a pretty special person. They blew it. That's their loss, not yours. All right? So get rid of that fear of being rejected and just appreciate the fact that you will get rejected. Every baseball player strikes out sometimes. That's just the deal. You know what, Michael Jordan, I forget the statistic on Michael Jordan, but how many times he missed the game-winning shot, right? Well, But you miss 100% of the shots you don't take because you also made a lot of game-winning shots. So take your shot. Sometimes the ball's going to go in, sometimes it didn't. Okay, that's the deal. All right, so let's say you've mustered up the courage now. You've gone up to somebody and you've started a conversation. I mean, the first thing you want to do is introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Doug, right? And then first say, hi, I'm Shirley. Oh, it's nice to meet you. Now, that's out of the way. I've now met you, okay? We're now looking at each other. We're now smiling at each other. Okay. So what you want to be able to do is ask the right questions to kind of open the doors to learn some important things about somebody, what they value, right? What they're passionate about and what their personality is like. Okay. So question number one, what brought you here? Right. So listen, if you go to the St. Ben's meetup, that's a good question. What brought you here? Right. Sometimes the simplest questions carry the most weight, right? Asking someone what brought them to a specific place or event reveals a lot about their journey, right? You might learn about a big life change or a dream they're changing or something, right? So people don't get asked that question a lot, so it often catches them off guard, which could be good, right? Their answer can give you a window into their motivations of what they truly value. All right. So, and Jim, we'll put these questions in the show notes too. Yep. Jim's nodding yes. So you don't have to write them down if you're in the car or whatever, but what brought you here? All right. Number two, what sparks your curiosity? What are you curious about? What do you want to learn more about? Okay. Curiosity is one of the most attractive and underrated qualities a person can have. When you ask someone what sparks your curiosity, you're really asking, what lights them up on the inside, right? What gets them excited? Maybe they geek out over, ancient history or space exploration or, I don't know, how animals communicate, right? Or dog training or whatever, right? It doesn't necessarily matter what their answer is, but whatever it is, it's going to tell you something about how their mind works and what excites them. And this whole idea of curiosity is a really important quality in marriage because you need to be curious as to what's going on in your spouse's life. When they're upset, you need to be curious about why they're upset, what it is you've done that you could have done different, etc. All right, so curiosity. That's number two. Number three, who are the kinds of people you like to surround yourself with? Who are the people you like to hang out with, right? You tell a lot about someone by the company they keep. Man, that's a truer statement has never been made than that one, I think. Asking this question does not mean you are judging their friends, rather just trying to understand what qualities they admire and they seek out in others, right? Someone who values kindness will mention kind people. Someone who craves adventure will talk about thrill seekers, like people who like to go hiking or mountain climbing or whatever, right? The answer also kind of hints at how they're going to treat people around them, right? Because we tend to mirror the traits of those closest to us, right? And so if I like a certain type of person, it's probably because I'm that kind of type of person. And that is a psychological truism that's really important when you're raising children, right? They are going to move towards and become like their friends and the kids they hang out with, which is why it's so important to surround your kids to the degree possible with really other good kids, because they'll get better together. But if they're hanging out with kids who are doing bad stuff, well, they're going to do some bad stuff. Number four, what are your hobbies? That's a good one. What do you like doing? What are your hobbies? Hobbies are not just a way to pass the time, right? They're windows into how people recharge, right? Into what they really enjoy and what they're willing to put effort into just for the joy of it, right? Someone who paints might be deeply expressive. Someone who paints might be someone with great attention to detail, because the best painters really notice the shadows and the tints and the hues and the lines, etc. So painters generally have great attention to detail, right? If they like sports, it kind of tells you the type of sport, right? If they hike every weekend, they probably value, nature and quiet, perhaps, right? Hiking is kind of a quiet thing to do if you're hiking through the woods, because you want to be able to hear the birds and watch the squirrels and that type of thing, right? Or someone who likes to bake might really love homebody kinds of things, right? Making home a warm cuddly place, right? Where you take good care of others in your home, and you got these beautiful smells in the kitchen, and et cetera, right? So knowing someone's hobbies helps you kind of form a picture of their everyday life and whether your lifestyles might mesh well, right? And so even if your hobbies are totally different, the way someone talks about what they love kind of tells you what they're passionate about and their personality. And it's okay to date people with different hobbies and different passions, right? It's the opposites that make things very interesting and stimulating, right? And that's one of the problems, and I'll get to it if we have time today, but that's one of the problems with the profiles that people put in their online dating apps is they're looking for somebody just like themselves. No. That's a recipe for disaster because you don't want to marry yourself. You want to marry somebody who's different, who brings things into your life that you're not capable of, that completes the areas where you're weak, that's strong where you're weak, and where you're strong where they're weak. So most people really mess up because they, if they like to fish, they say, I want someone who fishes. Well, no, not really. No, you probably don't want that because you want to be able to fish by yourself sometimes, right? Now, you can have certain common interests as well. Like if you both like to golf, great, you can spend time doing that. But if you like to golf and the other person likes to fish, great. That's great. I'm golfing, they're fishing, everything is good. Okay. So what are your hobbies? And it's okay to date people with different hobbies. Number 5, I like this question. What do you spend most of your time thinking about? That's a question most people don't ask. And that's going to cause the other person to have to pause for a minute and think about what it is they think about. What someone thinks about most reveals, their priorities, their worries, their dreams, even their fears. Maybe they're always thinking about work, or maybe they're always thinking about their family, their siblings, their parents. Maybe they're thinking about the next great business idea, or maybe they're thinking about world hunger. They're thinking about poverty, right? We tend to think about those things we really care about. And, the answer can be refreshingly honest because it's hard to fake, what it is that occupies my mind daily. And it's hard to give you the answer I think you're looking for because I have no idea what that would be, right? So the question also creates space for vulnerability, which is a foundation of any meaningful connection, right? So when two people share what genuinely lives in their heads, the conversations stop feeling like interviews and they start feeling like really human moments. All right. So I think that's a really powerful question. Number 6, what is something you believe that most people would disagree with? That's interesting. That'll cause the person to pause for a moment, right? Bold opinions are signs of independent thinking. I'm not just a crowd follower, right? Ask them what they believe that other people might push back on. Takes the conversation from small talk to something a little more solid. Right? And the answer might surprise you, challenge you, or make you laugh. You don't know. But either way, you're going to learn how they handle disagreement, right? Whether they've thought about the world deeply around them or not. And some people don't ever voice an opinion if it's something that might cause conflict. And so they withdraw, they shut down. Other people love to get into a spirited debate about things, right? So there you go. What's something you believe that most people disagree with? That could lead to an interesting conversation. And number 7, what does a life well lived look like to you? I think this is kind of a universal, kind of a general question, but I love it. So this kind of separates the surface level stuff like, yeah, I'm a Cub fan or whatever, separates that stuff from some really meaningful conversations. Asking someone what a well-lived life looks like gets right to the heart of their values, their goals, and their deepest desires, right? Some people may talk about travel and freedom. Others might mention, family time and, creativity or, spending time alone in the woods or spending time with other people at picnics, et cetera, right? There's no wrong answer to that because everyone is going to carve out their own well-lived life. And it'd be really nice to know if their idea of a well-lived life and yours aligns. Now, you're never going to find somebody with whom you align 100%, and that's good. You don't want that. But you want to get, 70 percentile, something like that, maybe 75%, right? So knowing what someone is ultimately working towards helps you to understand whether their vision of the future is compatible with yours. Because what you're going to do is build a future together, which is why I'm trying to meet people with whom I can build a future with, right? So that question about a well-lived life, I think, is really a good one, all right? So here you go, real quick, then we're going to take a break. What brought you here? What sparks your curiosity? Who are the kinds of people you like to surround yourself with? What are your hobbies? What do you spend most of your time thinking about? What is something you believe most people would disagree with? And what does a life well lived look like to you?
That was the Best of the Week on Relevant Radio. The best way to listen to the Best of the Week is on the Relevant Radio app, free and always free. Download and share the #1 free Catholic app today in the App Store.